How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne and this is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. What's up, brothers? Before we jump into this video, the first topic was about how this showcase got downgraded to a state of play and why I think that's bad. It's still relevant, but since I recorded it, they finally announced the state of play that we've been waiting months for, and it's a state of play. It's not a showcase. Anyway, it's all going down this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time where I am, and Sony specifically says tune in for updates on 14 PS5 and PSVR 2 titles, including a look at PlayStation Studios titles arriving later this year. So yeah, we're finally getting a look at the future of PlayStation, but I do not like the wording of this at all. When they say the PlayStation Studios titles, they say the ones coming out this year, and just based on the leaks and rumors, we know that those two games are Astrobot. There's a new Astrobot game that's not VR2 related. It's like a new full-on PS5 game, which is cool. Not exactly what Sony needs right now, if you ask me. And then the second game is Concord. I talk about that later in the video, how that's not necessarily the game that I'm most excited for when it comes to PlayStation's first-party studios. It's a live service game. It's multiplayer. We want single-player, open-world action-adventure games at the very least. We want to know what's going on with Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, Insomniac, all the rest. Hopefully we get the announcement of the Venom game. There's a Silent Hill transmission right after this event, so hopefully we get some sort of Silent Hill 2 teaser during this event, and then they say tune in to the Silent Hill transmission after. Later on in the video, I talk about the 3 Resident Evil games that are in development: Resident Evil 0 Remake, Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake, and of course Resident Evil 9. They got to announce at least one of those. Resident Evil has had a heavy showing at PlayStation's showcases and state of plays. Capcom always supports state of plays and showcases, so I fully expect to see what's coming from them. As far as PS5 Pro goes, I'm gonna go 60-40 in favor of it not being announced, just because this is a state of play. Last year around the same time, the event Sony held was a showcase, so it made more sense to announce hardware, but you never know. I'm gonna be watching it right here in front of my camera on my phone, ready to record as soon as they announce the PS5 Pro, if and when they do. If they don't announce any hardware, expect a video very soon after the event with my thoughts on the event and all that. But yeah, this is the big one. Hopefully it's exactly what we've been waiting for. Don't get your expectations too high, because they'll never meet them. Even if it was the best showcase of all time, I'm sure your brain would find a way to be disappointed in it. It's just funny that all the big leakers and rumor posters said that this was for sure going to be a showcase. Now it's a state of play, but still, I'm excited. I want to see the future of PlayStation. I'm glad we're finally going to get a look at it. So yeah, now I've got 4 other topics to cover. I'm going to jump right into those now. In today's video, I've got 4 topics for you guys. The first one is that Sony may have downgraded this showcase to a state of play, which would be a disaster. The second one is that gamers have won and Sony has fixed Stellar Blade to be exactly how they wanted it. Plus, you can get the game completely for free right now. Third on the list, 50% of you who haven't upgraded to a PS5 now have a great opportunity to do so thanks to State of Play. And finally, we're going to talk about the somewhat surprising future of Resident Evil. All right, let's jump into this first news story here. So we're at the end of May. Everyone's been expecting a PlayStation showcase. I have too. I even got conned by a Twitter account that made it seem like it was going to happen last week. It made sense to me because we had been hearing so many rumors. People really want this, myself included, obviously, because PlayStation needs to tell us about their future, and they literally announced this in their business update when they announced the 2 new CEOs. I don't understand why they didn't put a date on it back then, but now people are getting frustrated waiting for this showcase because, again, they said it would happen at the end of the month, and now it's May 28th when I'm recording this video, and it's nowhere to be found. And if you're kind of doubting that people really want this, go look at the replies to any tweet Jeff Grubb puts out where it's just "where is showcase" like over and over again. He's been kind of going off about it on Twitter, but in my opinion, you invited that on yourself by leaking it in the first place, and it has not materialized. So you're going to get those messages until it is announced. That's just the end of the story. But right when we're like at the peak of people expecting this, wanting to hear from Sony on what we have to look forward to in the future from them, both games and hardware wise, another big leaker named Nate the Hate has come out and replied to someone and said that he expects it this week, which is cool, but he's expecting it to be a state of play and not a showcase. And man, if that rumor ends up being true, I am not going to be happy. I think it's gotten really bad with Sony where they refuse to talk to us. They refuse to tell us what's going on. They give us years even waiting for news from them to talk about anything related to first party games, hardware, anything we really want. Stuff just appears out of nowhere and then we get excited for a few days and then we're right right back to waiting. I prefer how they do things, I think, to how Xbox does things, where they just keep running their mouth and they shoot themselves in the foot over and over again. But I honestly think there's a happy middle ground here where Sony can actually talk to us, but also kind of keep things that are important to keep secret. But no matter what way you slice it, the last thing they need right now is another state of play. It has been a year since we got a showcase, and that showcase that we got just over a year ago was not good. It was on May 24th. It had a lot of games that people were looking forward to, like Spider-Man 2, obviously, but they were all games we already knew about. The end had announcements for headsets and the PlayStation Portal. It didn't even have a name at the time. It was just, in my opinion at least, as close to a disaster as you could get without being a disaster. And when you're at that point, what you really need is a follow-up showcase that's going to be so much better and really show people what they can be excited for, because as we know, 50% of people who have PlayStation 4s have not upgraded yet. And Axios did a survey and basically everyone said, I'll upgrade when they give me a reason to. Every game they've put out this generation has basically been a cross-gen game. The upgrades that you get on PS5 aren't meaningful enough to those people. They feel rewarded for staying on PS4. And even when you look at what Xbox is doing with Call of Duty, they're rewarding people for staying on PS4. They're releasing Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on the last generation instead of making it a next-gen exclusive. So when you have the biggest games from the biggest companies in the industry coming out and also shipping on last gen, it makes complete sense why people are not upgrading. It'd be honestly at a certain point stupid to upgrade if you're just going to keep being rewarded for not upgrading. So this showcase, as we've been envisioning it for months now, a new experience where we're going to see what games we have to look forward to that are going to be PS5 only for the rest of the generation, was supposed to be something that would get people to want to upgrade, especially considering they have new hardware coming out later this year. They have a PlayStation 5 Pro coming out, and they already have a problem they need to solve with their regular PS5, right? If people aren't upgrading to the PS5 despite its power, giving them more power and the same amount of games that are not PS5 only, that's just a stupid thing to do, in my opinion at least. Like, I'm not running the company, but there's a very clear problem where people do not see a reason to upgrade their hardware, and giving them more hardware instead of a better reason to upgrade is just ridiculous. Like, it's stupid. I'm sorry I'm getting heated here, but like the last thing we need right now is a state of play where it's a bunch of third-party games, third-party exclusives, and then Concord, right? Like, Concord looks cool. I don't know what the game is. They showed us a CGI trailer that had virtually zero gameplay. It didn't have anything. It was like the dashboard of a spaceship, and it's a live service game. So when you ask me what the last thing Sony needs right now is, it's three things. The first thing is new hardware that's more powerful. There's no reason to upgrade your hardware if there's nothing taking advantage of the current hardware, right? Like, there's no bottleneck on the PlayStation 5 because nothing has really taken advantage of it. The second thing is more third-party games and more third-party exclusives. I like third parties. I think they're all good. I'm playing Elden Ring right now. That's a third-party game. It's amazing, right? But they had 3 third-party exclusives this year with Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade's second party, but you get what I'm saying. They're not moving consoles. They're getting people who already have the PlayStation 5 to play these games, but they're not getting people to go out and buy PlayStation games. Where the fuck is Naughty Dog? Where the fuck is Sucker Punch? Where the is Ben Studio? Where is even Insomniac with a new Venom game? Like, we need first party games that are going to take advantage of the PlayStation 5. And I just saw another rumor that the showcase is supposed to happen in September. Are you serious? Do it in May or June like you did forever around E3. Give people a reason to upgrade their hardware towards the end of the year. That's exactly what Sony needs to do. I'm not going to repeat myself anymore. Yeah, I just, like, if this is a state of play, I don't know, man. We're losing the plot here. Sony needs to learn to talk to us because that's just another unforced error that didn't need to happen. Second on the list here, though, we have a much more positive news story, which again is surrounding Stellar Blade. This game is selling well with users of the PlayStation 5. Unfortunately, it's not moving units, but for games that are only on PS5, I think it's one of the first ones we've gotten in a long time that make people go, wow, I'm glad I upgraded to the PlayStation 5. So it's serving its purpose there. Of course, you all know when it came out, there was a controversy because a couple of the costumes that they had previously shown in a pre-patched version or in the demo were completely censored for the main game. I mean, they weren't completely censored, right? Like, they covered up the cleavage, they covered up the like the bottom of the waist that the main character Eve has, and people were upset about that. In my opinion, rightly so, right? At the end of the day, I personally, Jimmy, do not really care what the costumes look like. I have not gotten a chance to really dig into this game yet because, again, I'm playing Elden Ring right now, but the problem is they showed them in a certain way and then censored them later, which is just another unforced error that they didn't need to do. And clearly, there they're marketing to a specific audience of people who want this game where you play as a super sexy Korean lady, right? Like, I think that's fine for people to want to play that, and showing the costume one way, changing it for release, really just gives into the crowd that wasn't going to play it anyway. Stupid thing to do. I'm not going to dig into the nitty gritty of the issue because, again, not super informed on it, but you know, I agree with the people who are upset because, again, they're the audience that this game was marketed to, and they changed the costumes for an audience that was never going to play the game anyway. So I'm happy to report that in this situation, the people who I agree with in this scenario seem to have won because there was a new update for the game that's adding in a boss rush mode, and the rewards that you get are the uncensored versions of those costumes. You can get a red one and a white one. It looks like the white one's inspired by Alice in Wonderland. It looks like the red one's inspired by Red Riding Hood. It's a pretty cool little update to get. From what I can tell, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a gauntlet to get these costumes, but at least they're in the game as they were originally designed to be. I know the director of the game came out and said that it was his intent to change the costumes and quote unquote censor them just a little bit, but you showed them off one way. You caused the problem for yourself by showing them off one way and then changing them at the 1.0 patch that the game had. I know people were buying disc versions of the game and purposely not patching it just so that they could get these costumes. I think it's good when developers listen and give people what they want. I know on the outside, I guess it seems like something dumb to care about, but really it's a larger issue where when games come here from other countries, the localization teams take it upon themselves to completely change lines of dialogue for virtually no reason. And then now we have this costume censorship. It's like, leave it alone. It's not up to us to decide what the intent was for these people. If something translates literally, leave it how it was, because that's how it was intended to be. Like, I don't need things changed or sanitized for me because I can think for myself because I'm a human being, right? Like, I'm not a baby. I'm a full-grown adult, and the game is rated M. It's for people who are over 17 years old of age. I mean, just by the rating on the box. So like, changing these things is stupid, and the only way to stop it from happening is to start talking about it, which is what people did, and they won. So the issue doesn't really connect with me because the game's not for me, but it's very easy for me to see who's in the right here. It's the people who wanted the costume shown off as it was originally shown off, and I'm completely on board with that. I don't think the people who changed it or wanted it to be changed really are going to play the game in the first place, so ruining it for the people who are is just stupid and foolhardy. But the second part of this story is even better, because if you're someone who's not into physical games, I know this community, we are all into physical games, but if you're someone who buys a lot of digital games, you've been racking up a lot of PlayStation Stars points, and now is definitely the time to cash them in because you can get Stellar Blade completely for free. Now, the amount of points you need is like 175,000, which means you'd have to spend a lot of money to actually rack up those points, or put a lot of time into the free campaigns to get the free PlayStation Stars coins that you can use to get these. But I had enough for Rise of the Ronin when that game came out and was added to the service. So I'm assuming that if you've bought any number of digital games throughout these mega sales that Sony's been doing, or, you know, there's a few first party games that you might have grabbed digitally instead of buying them physically, because I know that's getting harder to do these days, you probably have enough points, if not close to the amount that you need to actually get Stellar Blade for free. Anyway, for those of you who have not upgraded your PlayStation hardware just yet, now is definitely the time to do it, because PlayStation has announced the return of Days of Play. I love this campaign that they do every year where they give you extra PS Plus games, they put hardware on sale, they put a ton of games on sale. It's a win-win for Sony and us gamers all around because you get everything for a lot cheaper. So starting May 29th, you're going to be able to get $50 off of a PlayStation 5, whether you pick up the digital or the disc edition. I would say grab the disc edition, even though it's going to be a little bit more expensive. You're saving $50, which is most of the way to a full price game. And, you know, there are plenty of cheaper games out there that you could get to $50 pretty quickly with, making like your own little bundle. So saving $50 on hardware, I think, is totally worth it, even if you're someone who, you know, doesn't really see the need to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 just yet. The next thing you can get is $100 off a PlayStation VR 2. I don't like fully wholeheartedly recommend it. Like, if you're someone who's never played VR and you're not sure you would even use it, I don't think it's worth it even at $100 off. But if you're someone who really enjoys the Oculus Quest 2 or 3, or you have a PSVR 1 and you enjoyed using it on the PlayStation 4, that's a no-brainer price for this thing. You can get it used for around the same price, if not a little bit cheaper on eBay, but if you want to get the warranty and everything else that's involved with that by buying one new, getting it for $100 off seems like a fair deal to me. They're also going to give you $20 off of some of the first party games we've got gotten over the past year and these third-party exclusives like Rise of the Ronin, Spider-Man 2, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and MLB The Show. So if you've been waiting to pick any of those up, $20 off is a pretty healthy discount. And as we've seen this generation, Sony has not been as good about discounting games quickly with PS5 as they were with the PlayStation 4. So yeah, $20 off I feel like is worth it for all of those. And if you are buying hardware, this offer applies to where you buy it. So you can buy it on Amazon or Best Buy and get the discount, which is cool. But if you buy it through PlayStation Direct, you'll also get 12 months of Netflix with it, which, you know, is cool. Netflix is kind of lame now because all of their stuff that they make in-house kind of blows, but 12 months of Netflix is a pretty good value considering they keep raising the price every other month, and it's pretty expensive now. Like if you want 4K Netflix, that's $22 a month. So save a little money, buy the console through PlayStation Direct. I've always had a great experience with that website. I bought my Pulse Explorer headset through them, my Pulse Elite, my Spider-Man 2 Special Edition controller, my God of War Special Edition controller, and not my PS5 Slim. I got that through GameStop, but everything I bought, as soon as it ships, it's here the next day, even though you get free 2-day shipping. So it's cool that you get things a little bit quicker than you were expecting. And then for those of you who either grab a PSVR 2 in this promotion or already have one, if you have PS Plus Premium, you're going to get 6 PlayStation VR 2 games, and the list is pretty solid. You're going to get Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord, Walkabout Mini Golf, Synth Riders Before Your Eyes, and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapters 1 and 2. I've heard that Chapter 2 of Saints and Sinners is not as good as the first chapter, but the first chapter is one of the best VR games I've ever played, and I've played Walkabout Mini Golf VR with my friend Dustin over at Sacred Symbols a lot, and it's really fun. I think out of the games that they're giving, those 6 premium games, those are the 2 to grab, but getting 6 free games with a brand new purchase of a PSVR 2 and of course PS Plus Premium, boo, it's pretty cool. It's a nice little bonus to get during days of play. But yeah, that brings us to the fourth and final news story here, which is all about the future of Resident Evil. If you didn't know, out of all the game series out there, Resident Evil is my bread and butter. I love Resident Evil so much, and I've been excited to know where the future's going. We knew Resident Evil 9 was coming out either at the beginning of 2025 or the end of 2025. It looks like it's been pushed back to 2025. As far as I'm concerned, take as much time as you need on that. It's got the longest dev time of any Resident Evil. It's supposedly going to be going open world, and it's going to be an ending for the Ethan Winters trilogy and also a new beginning, which just sounds awesome to me. What I'm more interested in is the next remake. Of course, the end of Resident Evil 4 remake looked like it was teasing Resident Evil 5, but it looks like they're going in a little bit different of a direction. We did hear previously that Resident Evil 1 was being remade again. I was honestly excited for that, but now knowing what is going to be remade, I'm more excited. Well, for 50% of it. So this rumor is coming from Dusk Golem, who's like the big Resident Evil leaker out there, but this rumor has also been corroborated by VGC and IGN. VGC I trust a little bit more than IGN, but if they're confirming it, I fully believe it's happening. So instead of doing Resident Evil 5 right after 4, it looks like Capcom is remastering or remaking 2 games, Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil Code Veronica. Resident Evil 0 is the one I'm really not too excited about. I played Resident Evil 0. I thought it was cool that you played as 2 separate characters. I just don't really like Rebecca as a main Resident Evil protagonist. I thought Billy was a little bit cooler, but you know, I'd rather have Resident Evil 1 remade again than get Resident Evil 0 remade, because out of all of them, that's probably my least favorite mainline Resident Evil game. But Code Veronica, I played that for the first time last year, and it was kind of the first game that had the jump from PS1 to PS2. It's one of those games that has kind of the weirdest gameplay. It doesn't really work all that well, but it does have one of the cooler stories where you get to be Claire as a mainline protagonist again, which is awesome, and it introduces a lot of plot and lore that the series kind of took and ran with throughout the later games in the franchise. So out of all the ones to remake, I feel like Code Veronica is the one to go with because it's gotten the least remaster love other than Code Veronica X HD, and it's just a cool story overall, and it's a cool setting, right? Like, I think that one needed to be remade, so I'm glad they're doing it. So yeah, if you're into Resident Evil like I am, looks like we got a lot on our plate. Out of the 2 that are happening, I'm least excited for Resident Evil 0. I'm most excited about Resident Evil Code Veronica, and at the tippy top of what I'm excited for is of course Resident Evil 9. I love the mainline entries. I just hope it's scary again, because Resident Evil 7 I think is in my top 3. Village is fun. I like the world. I like the combat. The goofiness, the less scariness, the more action heavy focus, that's not what I care about. I don't need another meme character like Lady Dimitrescu. I feel like that took away from the actual fandom of the game and like stopped people from seeing it for what it is, which is a really cool survival horror game that maybe just leaned a little bit too close to the action side of the franchise. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.